Castro, and we're back for chapter 2 of my book, Flowerantha.
And I'm BB.
I'm joined by my daughter, BB. Let's start chapter 2. On his way home, Mash decided to take a shortcut through the winding river instead of following its current back to his house. I wished for a bridge. A single plank of wood materialized and clattered onto the rocky shore. It was no wider than Mash's 2 feet, and a crack ran through the center. What kind of a bridge is this? Mash put part of his weight on the plank, and it creaked under his toes. He bounced on it with 1 foot, but other than a few splinters flying off into the rushing water, it seemed intact. Spreading his arms for balance, he carefully proceeded across, the heel of 1 foot touching the toe of the other. He held his breath in the middle as the wood beam sagged, and a cold crest of water covered his foot. He picked his left foot up, and the crack in the wood gave way. Mash yelped as his whole body submerged into the water. Coughing, he paddled against the current and reached for a rock on the opposite shore. It took him a couple attempts to grab hold of the slippery surface. Back on dry land, Mash took long strides and arrived home soaking wet. His mother and father perched on the log seats in their gathering pouch, speaking in low voices. "Less powerful than they used to be," said his father, as Mash swung through the opening from a nearby branch. "What is less powerful?" Mash passed his parents and plopped onto a third log stool. He lifted the bowl of liquid sitting in front of him toward his nose. Steam rose, moistening his face, and an herb scent filled his nostrils. He took a big gulp of soup and wiped his mouth with the back of his wrist. "Mash, what happened to you?" his mother asked. "I went for a bit of a swim and I fell off a bridge." His mother moved her hand to her mouth. "Are you all right?" "Yes, it was more like a piece of half-broken wood than a bridge." He dodged his mother's hand as she reached for him. "What's less powerful?" he asked again. His father leaned his elbows on the table and wrapped his hands around his soup bowl. "Son, I really do not want you to worry about this. I'm sure it is nothing. Mostly worried people trying to find an explanation." "An explanation for what? I can handle it, Dad. I can help." His dad said nothing. "Do the purple flowers mean a visitor from the amaranth is here? I've been studying up on their culture. I'm ready." Mash's mother pushed herself off the stool and watched the water swirl around the trunk of their tree. "The king and queen said there's nothing to worry about. They would tell us if we were in danger. They always have been very clear with us. Although it wasn't cold, it never was in Flowerantha." Mash's mother rubbed her upper arms. "If they knew," said Mash. Mash's mother shook her head. "Do not forget, son, they can read minds. How could they not know?" Mash slurped his soup, and his head snapped in his father's direction once again. "What is less powerful than they used to be?" His father took a long, deep breath and stared at his rough, large hands resting on the table. He ran one of his hands through his mid-length, brown-gray hair and then rubbed his beard stubble. He took another long breath. "Our powers are less powerful." "Our powers? You mean our wishes?" "Yes. That explains why my bridge I wished for didn't work. It was just a half-broken piece of wood." Mash tested what his father had just told him. "I wished for a whole loaf of bread to have with our soup." A loaf of bread appeared on the table in front of them, but it looked like it had been left in the fire for far too long. The crust was scorched. Mash tried to grab it in one of his hands and recoiled. "Ouch, it burned me!" He held his wrist with his good hand and inspected his red palm. "How many wishes have you made today?" asked his father. "I've never had to count before. I could not even guess. Why?" "Some are saying wishes are now less effective after 3. "Since when?" I do not know. Days, weeks. The purple flowers, I think, mean that the monster nights are back. And people in town are saying that when a monster night is close by, our wishes become less and less powerful the more we wish. The monster nights haven't always had that effect on us, though. Shrootnight gave them that power." Shrootnight. Mash and his mother exhaled at the same time. Silence filled the pouch, from the pressed straw on the floor to the fibers woven together on the slanted ceiling. It seemed to creep into every space like a fine mist, then rise to the ceiling and pour out the opening and down the tree, having filled all the available space on the inside. The only sound that could be heard during that moment was the rushing stream in the yard, cheerful and unaware of any tension in the house. Shrew-to-night, or Ned, as he was called, when he first arrived in Flowerantha, learned the language and customs quickly. He also tried to control the Monster Knights and became corrupt. Shrew-to-night, as he was now called, lived with the Monster Knights and discovered a way to travel back and forth from the Amaranth to Flowerantha. But the Monster Knights could not be controlled for long. Realizing they were stronger together than apart, they drove Shrew-to-night away, and he fled back to the Amaranth. Mash's father broke off a piece of the burnt bread and sopped up the remaining bit of soup in his bowl. The good news is, we don't think the Monster Knights know they have that effect over our wishes yet. If we make it seem like we're as capable as ever, we'll still have an advantage. If they find out, they'll be unstoppable. Mash's mother snatched Mash's father's empty bowl and clanked it on top of her own. Before she climbed out of the pouch to clean the bowls and the water, she pointed to Mash's half-full bowl. "Your dinner is getting cold." With unfocused eyes, Mash's mouth hung open while he processed what his father said. "I'm not hungry anymore." "You will eat," commanded his mother. Mash did as he was told, gulping the rest of his soup. After he finished, he leaned his head on his hand, and his knee bounced up and down. "You are excused, Mash." Mash swung his legs out from under the table and stacked his bowl on top of the other two. "Let me know if you hear anything else, Father." Then he darted up the tree to his sleeping pouch. Throwing his blanket to the side, which was stuffed with the warmest down from baby aquasis, or winged horse, feathers, he found his tattered, leather-bound book. Some of the pages were falling out, and some of the pages Mash had ripped out. Mash kept it together with a leather cord tied around the middle. Untying the cord, he opened the book and removed the pencil he kept in its binding. The book contained notes about everything Mash had learned about visitors from his father and anyone else who had been alive long enough to remember stories of past visitors. Mash noted some expressions he especially liked. The word "awesome" was circled on one of the pages. Another page contained the names of the few visitors he had heard about through the years and anything he knew about them. There was an old man whom everyone loved. He ended up dying in Flowerantha, surrounded by many friends. Then there was the beautiful woman who came before his parents were born. Legend has it that she wanted more than anything to become a mermaid and died trying. Then there was Shrew-to-night. If Shrew-to-night could get to the Amaranth, Mash thought, so could he. So that's the end of chapter 2. I hope you'll stick around for chapter 3.
And make sure to give us a thumbs up